You don't really hear the click when a man snaps. It's not a scream, not a punch, not a slammed door. It's silence. Heavy, cold, final. Mine came on Easter morning, 9:42 a.m., right after I placed the last chocolate egg in the backyard garden for the family hunt, tradition we kept up for far too long. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Melissa, my wife of 24 years, was still upstairs applying her natural makeup. Our daughter Amanda, 21, had just texted me from her room asking why I hadn't paid the monthly installment on her new BMW yet. No happy Easter. No thanks for everything, Dad. Just, why is the payment late? I'm not driving a Kia like a peasant. That was the click. That quiet little snap deep inside my ribs. 24 years. I gave them everything. Worked double shifts. Skipped promotions to stay close to home. Liquidated my inheritance so Melissa could get her yoga studio that she closed after 6 months. Paid for Amanda's private schooling, designer wardrobes, influencer trips, and her spiritual retreats to Bali. And what did I get? A wife who hadn't kissed me in 3 years, unless it was for a staged Instagram post. A daughter who called me D, like I was her assistant, and a mailbox full of overdraft warnings. But that morning, I didn't feel rage. I felt free. I set down the basket, wiped my hands, and walked inside the kitchen. The table was already laid out, honey ham, quiche, pastries from that overpriced French bakery Melissa loved because it had aesthetic. Everything perfect. Fake perfect. I poured myself coffee and waited. Melissa floated downstairs an hour later, wearing a $3,000 pastel dress, already posing with the tulips in the background for her followers. Be a dear and take a few shots, she said, handing me her phone without even making eye contact. I took 3 photos. Then I turned the camera to selfie mode and took one of my own, expressionless, standing in the middle of their curated life. I sent it to an email account they didn't know I had. Subject line: today they lose everything. Amanda finally appeared, wearing a new outfit I hadn't authorized. Can we hurry this up? Tyler's picking me up in 20. We've got a brunch thing. Tyler, the music producer boyfriend I knew, was pocketing half of the gift cards Amanda stole from Melissa's purse each month. Melissa smiled at her. Let's get the hunt going before the ham dries out. I followed them outside, hands in my pockets. The sun was warm. The birds chirped. Amanda shrieked with fake delight every time she found an egg. I watched them pose, perform, pretend. Then I opened my phone and clicked send. Within that email was a zipped file, 5 years of compiled data. Credit card bills, wire transfers, screenshots of private messages, Amanda's expulsion from her first college, covered up, Melissa's monthly charges to a hotel I'd never heard of, and an audio clip of Amanda saying, "My dad's such a loser. If he died tomorrow, the only thing I'd inherit is his debt." The email went to Melissa's extended family, Amanda's school administrators, the HOA board, our church newsletter contact, and Melissa's influencer PR firm. I turned back to the yard just as Melissa shouted, "Derek, what are you doing? Come take a family photo." I smiled, and then Amanda's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked at it, then again, and her face turned white. She looked up at me. "Dad, what did you do?" Amanda's voice cracked through the morning air. "Dad, what did you do?" I didn't answer, not because I didn't know what to say, because I wanted the silence to speak for me. Melissa turned toward us, confused. "What's going on?" Amanda stared at her phone in horror, swiping, gasping, clutching her designer bag like it might anchor her to reality. "It's everywhere. My school just emailed me. Someone leaked private photos, transcripts, my GPA. Dad, what the hell?" Melissa's smile faded. She took a slow step forward. "Derek, what is she talking about?" Her phone buzzed next, then again. Then it began ringing. I watched the blood drain from her face as she read the first message, then the second, then a call from her sister, Rebecca, the one who always bragged about her perfect marriage and mocked ours. Melissa didn't answer. She couldn't. I sipped my coffee, still hot on my thermos. Amanda shrieked. "This is your fault. What did we ever do to you?" I raised an eyebrow. "Do you want a list?" Melissa finally snapped. "Why would you do this? On Easter? Why not?" I said, "It's a holiday about resurrection. I figured it was time for me to rise too." That silenced them. For a moment, then Melissa's face twisted into something venomous. "You think you're some kind of martyr? You ruined our lives." "No," I said evenly. "You ruined mine. I just stopped financing it." Amanda threw her phone across the lawn. "Tyler just dumped me. He said I'm radioactive." "Good," I said. "Now you know what your self-worth looks like when it's not subsidized by your father's checking account." Melissa's voice was lower now, more calculated. "You think this makes you the hero? You think anyone's going to see you as anything other than a bitter old man?" "Let them decide," I said. "The receipts are there." Because they were. 5 years of abuse, entitlement, manipulation, documented, archived, time-stamped. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I walked back inside, leaving them stunned in the yard, went to the study, opened the safe. Inside was a single manila envelope. I carried it to the kitchen table. Amanda burst in, mascara running. "You're going to pay for this. I'll tell everyone you're mentally unstable, that you fabricated it all." I slid the envelope toward her. "Open it." She hesitated, then did. Inside, a full legal breakdown of my new will. It had been revised 2 weeks ago. Amanda's name, nowhere. Melissa's, gone. The sole beneficiary, Patrick Hayes, my godson, a quiet kid who volunteered at the VA hospital and once asked me what integrity meant. Amanda read it, horrified. "This is a joke." "No," I said. "This is justice." Melissa walked in next. "You're cutting your own family out? For what? Some petty revenge?" "No," I said, standing. "For peace." They followed me to the living room, yelling, pleading, accusing. Then, a knock at the door. Melissa froze. Amanda turned pale. I walked over and opened it. 2 police officers stood outside. "Mr. Derek Collins?" "Yes. We received a welfare concern report about you this morning. Claims of mental instability, potential threats." Amanda gasped. "I didn't." I turned to her, but the look on Melissa's face told me everything. She did. I looked the officer dead in the eye. "Come in. I've got nothing to hide." Melissa tensed behind me. Amanda shifted uncomfortably, trying to look confused rather than guilty. One of the officers, tall, serious guy with a salt and pepper beard, nodded. "Mind if we talk privately, sir?" I gestured to the dining room. "Be my guest." They sat across from me while the other gently took Melissa and Amanda aside. I could hear her voice slipping into full performance mode, breathy concern, practiced pauses, just enough tears to sound authentic. "She's been through so much," I heard Melissa whisper. "And he hasn't been himself lately." Classic. The officer facing me folded his hands. "We received a call from someone claiming you'd made threats, potentially toward yourself or others. They said you'd become erratic, emotionally unstable, possibly violent." I laughed. "Not the kind you plan. One that bursts out because the absurdity is just too much." The officer didn't laugh back. "I'm guessing it came from my wife," I said. Convenient timing, too, right after a few uncomfortable truths went public. He raised an eyebrow. "Can you elaborate?" I stood, walked to my desk, and pulled out a folder. "Here's a record of everything I sent out this morning. Emails, documentation, financial statements. I've also got a notarized statement from my therapist confirming I've never expressed self-harm or violent tendencies." He flipped through the papers slowly, carefully. Meanwhile, Melissa peeked in from the hallway, eyes narrowing when she saw what I'd given them. The officer set the folder down. "Mr. Collins, you seem calm, measured, but when family members raise concerns, especially on a holiday, we have to take them seriously." "I understand," I said, "but you should also take context seriously." I handed him one last document, A printout of the police report from 5 years ago when Melissa called the cops on a neighbor for threatening her aura. The same neighbor she later admitted to calling, just to shake things up. The officer skimmed it, then closed the file. "We'll file this as a resolved check-in," he said. "But if anything escalates, don't hesitate to call us." He stood. "And Mr. Collins, I've seen a lot of situations like this. You're not the first man to wake up late, but at least you woke up." He nodded once and left with his partner. Melissa waited until the door closed. "You smug bastard," she hissed. Amanda crossed her arms. "You think you can play the victim now?" I turned to them both. "No, I'm not a victim." I grabbed my jacket from the chair. "But I am done playing the fool." "Where are you going?" Melissa asked. "To get some air." "Don't think this is over," she snapped. "You embarrassed us. You made Amanda's name trend negatively." I opened the door, looked back once. Good. Maybe now she'll have to earn respect, not just expect it. I walked out without another word, and as I stood in the driveway, taking in a breath of spring air, my phone buzzed. A new email. From a contact I didn't recognize. Subject line: "You're not the only one with dirt on them." The email sat there like a loaded pistol. From anonymous@protonmail.com. Subject: "You're not the only one with dirt on them." Attachment: the ID_4563.mov. Message: "Play this. I saw what you did. It's time you saw what they did." My finger hovered over the file. My first thought: trap. My second: it didn't matter. I'd already jumped off the cliff this morning. No sense in checking for rocks on the way down. I tapped the video. It opened with grainy, low-light footage from what looked like a hotel hallway. Timestamp: 6 months ago. Melissa walked into frame. Not alone. A man followed. Not a stranger. Timothy Evans, a married real estate broker from our church. A guy who gave sermons on discipline in the home, and once told me I was lucky to have such a humble wife. They laughed, whispered, and entered room 407. The video cut out. My jaw clenched, but I didn't feel shocked. Only validated. I clicked reply. "Who are you?" No response. Instead, another message popped in. "I've got more. Meet me tonight. 10 p.m., parking lot behind Briarwood Medical." Briarwood, abandoned clinic, condemned 3 years ago. Perfect. Heather, my friend from the gym and a former cybercrime analyst, had once told me, if someone sends you a ghost trail, they either want revenge or redemption. I was about to find out which. That night, I parked under a dead security light behind the clinic. 10:02 p.m. My heart thudded in sync with the ticking dashboard clock. Then a figure approached. Hood up, face obscured, tall, slender. "Derek?" they asked. "Yeah." They handed me a USB. "Melissa isn't who you think she is. Amanda either." I narrowed my eyes. "And you are?" "I dated Amanda. Briefly. Until she and Melissa blackmailed me." "What?" "She told me she'd accuse me of stalking if I didn't help her cheat through 2 semesters. Melissa threatened to report me to the dean for harassment if I said a word. I was on scholarship. I couldn't risk it." "And the footage?" He nodded. "I worked maintenance at that hotel. Caught it by accident. Saved it just in case." "Why now?" He looked me in the eye. "Because you finally stopped pretending, and I figured maybe now's the time to burn the mask." He turned and disappeared into the shadows before I could ask more. I went home, plugged in the drive. Inside, photos, messages, copies of receipts Melissa had billed to my name, on trips I never took. Amanda's school files, noting 2 separate cheating investigations, both mysteriously resolved. And one final document, a notarized paternity test result. I opened it. Amanda Collins, not biologically related to Derek Collins. I didn't breathe for 5 full seconds. Then I stood, calm, steady, and pulled up a blank document titled Plan B. I stared at the DNA report until the edges of the page began to blur. Not my daughter. Not my daughter. 21 years of sacrifice. For a lie. Not a mistake. Not a moment of weakness. A system built on deception. Financial, emotional, biological. And now I understood. The looks between Melissa and Amanda. The whispered secrets. The entitlement. The dismissiveness. I had always been the outsider in my own home, and I'd paid for the privilege. I closed the file, took a long breath, and started writing. Plan B. It wasn't a breakdown. It was a blueprint. I collected every photo, video, document, and transaction Melissa had tried to erase. Dates, faces, timestamps, hotel bills, wire transfers to fitness instructors, gift receipts for Amanda's college expenses that were actually club fees and designer drugs. I uploaded everything to an encrypted cloud folder and labeled it the Easter Revelation. I composed a statement, not a bitter rant, not a hit piece, just facts. Calm, deliberate, devastating. I told the story of a man who had been used, manipulated, drained, and who finally decided to speak. At the end, I added one line. This is not revenge. This is a resurrection. I contacted the financial advisor Melissa thought I fired 2 years ago. Turns out he'd been sending statements to a separate inbox I set up, just in case. The account she believed had $40,000 had $8.23. She drained it in 12 months. I froze every card, locked the joint accounts, revoked her access to my credit line. She was going to wake up tomorrow in a very different reality. I booked a rental cabin 5 hours away under a different name. No cell service, no Wi-Fi, just me, typewriter, and a story no one could twist. Heather, the cybercrime expert, agreed to monitor my cloud vault and act as my digital gatekeeper. If anything happened to me, she'd release everything. Public, permanent. That night, as I finalized the last folder, Amanda walked in without knocking. She had been crying, probably from watching her follower count drop. "Dad," she whispered, "why are you doing this?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I turned the monitor so she could see the folder title. Her face paled. "I know," I said. "Everything." She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand. "I don't want apologies. I don't want explanations. I want space." She stepped back. "Does Mom know?" I shook my head. "She will." Then I handed her a sealed envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Your real father's name." She didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at me. And for once she looked small. Not in stature, but in soul. I walked past her, down the hallway, and into the bedroom. Behind me, silence. Then, Melissa's voice, sharp and rising. "What is this?" The shouting began. I smiled to myself, because I knew. Step 5 was about to begin. "What is this?" Melissa's voice cut through the house like shattered glass. I didn't rush to answer. I let her come to me. Seconds later, she stormed into the bedroom, the paternity test clutched in her shaking hand. Hair wild, eyes full of rage, not guilt, not fear. Rage. "You went through my things." I stared at her. "Your things?" "That file was in my safe." She didn't flinch, didn't apologize. Instead, she pivoted like a seasoned manipulator. "This is a violation of trust, Derek." That made me laugh. Out loud. "Trust? You lied to me about my own daughter for 2 decades. And you're lecturing me about boundaries?" Her face turned red. "I did what I had to do. You were stable, reliable. I knew you'd stay. And that made it okay. It made it necessary," she snapped. "You were always so desperate to be needed. I gave you purpose." The words hit like a slap, but not because they hurt, because they revealed something deeper. She truly believed it. To her, I wasn't a partner. I was a tool. Useful. Replaceable. "Who's Amanda's father?" I asked. She didn't answer right away, just stared at me. Then, calmly, "Does it matter?" And that right there was the final nail. I walked to the closet, pulled down the duffel bag I'd packed the night before, tossed in my charger, my jacket, my notebooks. "You're leaving," she said. "I'm gone," I corrected. "Everything you built was based on pretending I'd never wake up. But I did. Easter morning. Seems fitting." She scoffed. "You think people will take your side after the stunt you pulled?" My sister blocked me. Amanda's professors are re-evaluating her record. You've poisoned everything. No, I said, zipping up the bag. I just opened the blinds. She stepped closer, voice low and sharp. You walk out that door, and you'll regret it. I will make you look like the monster. I looked her dead in the eyes. You've spent 20 years rehearsing that part. I'm sure you'll play it well. I walked past her, down the hall, out the front door. The air was cool, clean. I could hear birds again, but I wasn't free yet. As I loaded the bag into my car, Amanda came out. She didn't speak at first. Then, quietly, "So, you're really not my dad?" I paused, then looked at her, truly looked at her. "I raised you," I said. "I loved you. I believed in you. But I'm done bleeding for people who sharpen knives with my name." She swallowed hard. "Where will you go?" "To a place where silence means peace, not punishment." I got in the car, started the engine. She stepped back. I drove, and I didn't look back. But 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. One notification. From Heather. "Derek, your cloud backup is offline. Someone breached the vault." Heather's message lit up my screen like a flare. "Your cloud backup is offline. Someone breached the vault." I pulled the car over, hand still on the wheel, heart suddenly pounding. The encrypted cloud had been my safety net. If Melissa or Amanda somehow got into it, all the evidence, all the files, my leverage gone. I called Heather. She picked up on the first ring. "I just checked the logs," she said. "Your archive was accessed from an unregistered device in your home Wi-Fi zone." So Melissa got in. No, not a laptop. This was a phone, and not hers either. My stomach sank. "Amanda," Heather continued, "it wasn't just accessed. It was wiped. Everything. She deleted the whole directory." I stared at the windshield, jaw clenched. "Do you have a backup?" "Of course. I mirrored everything to an external drive last week. But Derek, if she's bold enough to wipe your vault, she's not afraid anymore. That means she's planning something bigger." She was right. They weren't trying to silence me. They were preparing to replace the narrative. I turned the car around. Time to strike back. I drove not home, but to the one place I knew they'd never expect me to return to. Melissa's yoga studio. The failed business that bled $18,000 from our savings and shut down quietly 3 years ago. What she didn't know, I never sold the building. It was still in my name. Empty. Forgotten. Until now. I parked behind the alley, unlocked the side door, and stepped into the dust-coated silence. It was perfect. No cameras. No trackers. No digital footprint. I pulled out my backup phone. Opened the mirrored drive Heather had sent over. All the files still intact. And I got to work. I drafted a clean, final version of the statement, streamlined, chronological, undeniable. I attached the video of Melissa and Timothy, Amanda's falsified transcripts, a new forensic trail showing the financial bleed. Then I uploaded it to 3 separate scheduled release platforms, one through Heather's media contacts, one via anonymous drop to a journalist who hated influencers, and one to a former IRS agent with a blog focused on domestic financial abuse. Time for release in 72 hours. Melissa wouldn't see it coming. Amanda wouldn't be able to stop it. They thought deleting one copy deleted the truth. But they forgot. I spent 2 decades living in the shadows of their fiction. I knew how to work in silence. The next morning, I received a text. Block number. You really should have stayed gone, Derek. Then, an image. A photo of the outside of the cabin I'd rented. Taken that morning. They'd found me. The photo chilled me more than the mountain air outside the cabin. Taken from the woods. Morning mist still clinging to the porch. My coffee mug clearly visible beside the door. They weren't guessing. They were here. I stared out the window, half expecting to see Melissa's SUV or Amanda's glossy, white BMW parked down the hill. But nothing moved. No tracks in the gravel. No headlights on the road. Whoever sent that message didn't want confrontation yet. They wanted fear. And they'd succeeded. But only for a moment. I grabbed my phone, dialed Heather. She answered mid-ring. I saw the text. You okay? I'm fine, I said. But they're escalating. They know what's coming. I nodded to myself. They're desperate. She paused. You want me to pull the trigger early? Upload everything today? I thought about it, then shook my head. No, let it hit on schedule. I want them to spend the next 72 hours knowing they're out of time. She exhaled. Then you need to leave. Now. I will, I said. Just one thing left. I ended the call and opened my laptop. Pulled up the security cam feed I had quietly installed years ago in Melissa's studio, originally to protect her business from break-ins. Now it had a new purpose. I watched the feed flicker to life and saw Amanda standing in the empty studio, alone, phone in one hand, spray paint can in the other. She wasn't just erasing evidence. She was about to torch my sanctuary. I grabbed my keys, and for the first time since this war began, I drove straight toward the enemy. I pulled into the alley behind the old yoga studio just as Amanda stepped outside. She didn't look surprised to see me. That told me everything. She was waiting. Her phone was in one hand, spray can in the other. Black paint smeared across the back wall, messy, angry letters. Liar. Manipulator. Abuser. I got out of the car slowly. She watched me. Cold. Still. So this is how it ends? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Just dropped the spray can to the pavement and crossed her arms. You ruined my life, she said. I almost laughed. No. I stopped paying for the one you built on lies. You humiliated me. No, Amanda, I said calmly. You did that yourself. I just stopped covering it up. She stepped forward. Do you know what it's like to be canceled before you even graduate? Do you know what it's like to fund someone else's fantasy while they spit on your reality? Her jaw clenched. You think any of this makes you a hero? I'm not a hero, I said. I'm a man who finally stopped apologizing for existing. She looked away for the first time. Not ashamed. Just calculating. And that's when I saw it. The flicker of something more dangerous than anger. Desperation. You think Mom will go down easy? She asked. She's already talking to lawyers. She'll bury you with harassment claims, emotional abuse, financial manipulation. I nodded. Let her. Amanda's expression broke, just for a second, then hardened again. You never really loved me. I swallowed. No, I did. More than I should have. But love doesn't mean pretending someone is who they're not. And you, Amanda, you became someone I don't recognize. For a second, her lips trembled. A tear welled in the corner of her eye. But then she turned and opened the studio door. You've made your point, Dad. So now let me make mine. I followed her inside. The studio was mostly empty. Just dust, old mats, and the faint smell of mildew. She walked to the front desk, reached beneath it, and pulled out a flash drive. I stole this from Mom's computer, she said, not looking at me. Emails, transactions, voice memos, stuff even you don't have. I froze. Why? Because she was going to throw me under the bus, she said bitterly. Her lawyers are prepping a story where I acted alone, that I used her cards, that I manipulated her. The full circle hit me like a freight train. Amanda wasn't just the betrayer anymore. She was being betrayed too. She held out the drive. Take it. Burn her. Burn us both. I don't care anymore. I stared at the device, then at her, and said, no. Her eyes widened. What? You want to be different? Then start with this moment. Don't hand off the grenade, disarm it. She looked stunned, then angry, then conflicted. And that's when the front door creaked open. We turned. Melissa walked in. And she wasn't alone. Behind her, a cameraman, a live mic, and a news anchor I recognized from Channel 5. The cameraman raised the lens. The reporter, Rachel Summers, local celebrity, smiling assassin, stepped forward with the mic already live. Melissa followed behind her, like she owned the room. Her posture perfect, her expression calm, but her eyes cold. Mr. Collins, Rachel said, voice smooth and practiced, we've received several concerning reports regarding financial and emotional abuse against your wife and daughter. Would you care to comment on the record? Amanda stood frozen beside me, still holding the flash drive. I felt her pulse in the air, torn, trembling. Melissa spoke before I could. My husband, she began, has been unraveling for months. He's weaponized personal information to shame us. He's mentally unstable, and he's now trying to rewrite our entire family history. Rachel turned to me. Is that true? I took one breath, 1 second to decide whether to walk away or go all in. I'm glad you came, I said calmly. Let's talk about family history. Rachel tilted her head, intrigued. Melissa stepped forward. Derek, this isn't helping. I raised a hand. I gave 24 years of loyalty, I said, loud enough for the mic. I paid for every vacation, every private school, every designer bag and botched business. I sacrificed promotions, friendships, and my sanity to support 2 people who saw me as a bank account, not a man. Rachel blinked. And you have proof of this? I nodded. More than enough. I took the flash drive from Amanda's hand, held it up to the camera. Emails, invoices, voicemails, even DNA reports. Melissa gasped, too loud. Too late. Amanda looked down, ashamed. Rachel's eyes lit up. She was getting gold. But I wasn't done. You want a scoop? I said, here it is. I was loyal. I was present. I was used. And today, on live TV, I'm done being silent. Rachel turned to Melissa. Do you deny any of this? Melissa's face faltered. This is manipulation. This is revenge. I calmly stepped to the front desk, plugged the drive into the old laptop still collecting dust there, and turned the screen to the camera. First file, video of Melissa entering the hotel with Timothy. Second, voice memo from Amanda threatening her ex. Third, a scanned bank statement showing nearly $18,000 missing from a family trust, transferred to an anonymous account traced to Melissa. Rachel's smile grew smaller. Melissa, she said slowly, were you aware you were being recorded? Melissa lunged. Not at me. At the laptop. Amanda stepped in her way. Don't, she whispered. Don't make it worse. Melissa froze. Her facade cracked just for a second, then shattered. She turned and stormed out the front door. The cameraman followed. Rachel turned back to me. What happens now, Mr. Collins? I looked at Amanda, then out the window where Melissa had vanished, then into the camera. What happens now? I repeated. Now the truth stands on its own. The camera shut off. Rachel lowered the mic. You just flipped the whole town upside down. Good, I said. It needed the shake. My phone buzzed again, this time from Heather. It's time. All 3 packages are live. The uploads, the story, the evidence. The world would know within hours. And just as I turned to leave, Amanda asked, Can I come with you? Can I come with you? Amanda's voice wasn't commanding this time. It was quiet, tentative. She stood in the doorway of the old studio, arms crossed, not in defiance, but as if trying to hold herself together. Her mascara had run. Her posture had collapsed. For the first time in years, she looked like someone real. I stared at her. No camera tricks? I asked. She shook her head. No posts. No filters. Silence stretched. And then I said the hardest thing I've ever had to say. Why? She hesitated. Then, because I don't want to become her. The words landed hard. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for a way out. I sat on the studio bench, the old wood creaking under me. Amanda remained standing, waiting, not pushing. You lied to me, mocked me, took my sacrifices like they were oxygen, I said. And now, because it's inconvenient, you want to switch teams. No, she said, because I finally see the teams. I looked at her. Her eyes were puffy. Her phone was cracked. Her nails chipped. None of that mattered. But the crack in her voice, that was new. You think saying sorry erases years of damage? I asked. No, she replied. I think it starts one step toward not repeating it. I stood, looked her dead in the eyes. You're not my blood. She flinched. But, I continued, you were my daughter. I raised you. I loved you. And I hoped to hell you'd learn from my silence. She didn't speak. I'm not offering comfort, I said, but I'll offer truth. From now on, that's the only currency I accept. Amanda nodded slowly. I don't want comfort. I want to rebuild something that wasn't fake. That struck deep. I walked to the door, held it open. You ride in silence. You speak only when it matters. And if you lie once, we're done. No warnings. She stepped through the doorway. Understood. We drove for hours. No music. No small talk. Just road. Eventually, we stopped at a diner halfway to the cabin. I ordered coffee. She didn't order anything. Just stared at the menu. You okay? I asked. She looked up. How did you know? That mom wasn't telling the truth. I stopped looking at her words, I said, and started watching her actions. Amanda nodded slowly, then reached into her bag, pulled out a small black notebook. What's that? Something I started writing. Things I remember. Things that didn't make sense back then. Things I think you should know now. I opened it. Inside were pages of observations, moments, conversations, timelines. One entry read, 3 years ago, Mom met with a lawyer secretly. Said if Derek ever finds out, we pivot fast. Another, she told me once, your father may not be your real dad, but he's useful. For now. I closed the book and realized the war wasn't over. It had just evolved. Melissa hadn't lost. She had retreated, which meant one thing. She was planning her counterattack. The notebook Amanda gave me wasn't just an apology. It was ammunition. Dates, overheard conversations, screenshots she had secretly saved. Like part of her always knew the truth would explode someday. It painted Melissa not just as a narcissist or manipulator, but as a long-game strategist. Cold, calculated. Every entry led me to the same conclusion. Melissa had never loved either of us. We were assets, pawns, and now that the board had shifted, she would either retreat or strike. But I didn't expect her to move so fast. It started the next morning. Heather called. You need to see this. She texted a screenshot. A headline from a blog that Melissa's PR firm had once advised. Professor's breakdown sparks family implosion. Daughter seeks protection. My name was in the first paragraph. So was Amanda's. But the quote from a close family friend is what burned. He grew obsessive. He isolated them. He created fake documents to sabotage their lives. Amanda's face went pale. They're spinning it already, she whispered. I nodded. She's positioning herself as the wounded wife and you as the manipulated daughter. Amanda clenched her fists. She's trying to make me flip. Because she knows you're with me now. And that's a threat. Heather messaged again. I checked the servers. 3 legal notices just filed under your name. Civil harassment, emotional defamation, and a restraining order attempt. I rubbed my temples. She's building a case to freeze my assets. Made me look unstable. Block the uploads. But the truth's already out, Amanda said. I shook my head. Perception doesn't need facts. Just momentum. Amanda stood, pacing. What do we do? I looked at her. Now we pivot. We drove back to the city, not to confront Melissa directly, but to get ahead of her. Heather had set up a meeting with a local reporter who had integrity and a personal reason to hate manufactured PR campaigns. Her name was Rebecca Finch, and she'd spent 5 years taking down corrupt local officials and influencers with reputation managers. We met her in a cafe under a fake name. Amanda gave her the notebook. I gave her the files Melissa didn't know I still had. Rebecca listened, asked sharp questions. She wasn't in it for drama. She wanted the truth. And when we were done, she smiled slowly. Melissa's not just unethical, she said. She's a brand built on borrowed money and broken trust. And I'm going to tear it all down. But just as we stood to leave, Rebecca's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then looked at us, alarmed. She's already here. What? She just posted a live video. 20 minutes ago. Full makeup, Big tears, title says. I finally have to protect my daughter from him. Amanda cursed. Rebecca turned her screen to us. Melissa sat in their old sunroom, soft piano music playing in the background. She clutched a tissue. I was silent too long. I tried to protect him, but now I have to protect Amanda. And then Amanda's childhood photo flashed on screen. Melissa's voice choked. She's scared. She doesn't want to be near him. Amanda's eyes went wide. She's speaking for me. I nodded grimly. And if we don't stop her, she'll erase everything. Melissa's video had over 40,000 views in under an hour. The comments: vicious, poor woman, classic narcissist dad. She's so brave to speak out. Amanda gripped her mug like it was the last solid thing in her life. I feel like I'm watching my funeral, and she's giving the eulogy. She's winning the optics war, I said. She's faking a daughter's voice. No, I corrected. She's replacing yours. Heather called again. She's filed a public restraining order petition. Hearings in 48 hours. It's going to be live-streamed. I ran a hand down my face. She's forcing a trial by internet. She's betting you'll break, or that Amanda will. Rebecca, the journalist, leaned forward. We can counter it, but you need a witness. Someone unbiased. Someone who knew Melissa before the filters. That's when Amanda looked up. There's someone. His name was Patrick Jensen, Melissa's former business partner from the failed yoga studio. He vanished after it collapsed, blamed for the finances, publicly. But privately, Amanda had overheard a conversation years ago where Melissa bragged about pinning the tax issues on that soft-spoken idiot who signed too many forms. We tracked him down. He worked nights at a print shop 2 towns over. At first, he didn't want to talk. I've put it behind me, he said. She ruined me, cost me my reputation. But she's still doing it, Amanda said quietly. To my dad, and to me. Patrick looked at her, then at me, and then he opened a drawer. Inside, a folder labeled 2017, Studio Dissolution. He slid it across the table. Emails, financial statements, her fake invoices. I kept it all, just in case. Amanda whispered, why? Patrick's voice was tired. Because I knew one day someone else would need to prove she lies for sport. I looked down at the files and realized we just got our witness. The courthouse was already surrounded by reporters. 2 days ago, I was invisible. Now, I was headline material. Estranged father to face public hearing after wife's viral plea. Daughter caught in media crossfire. Melissa had done what she always did, rewrote reality until it cried on command. And tomorrow, I'd be standing in front of the same world, accused of abuse, paranoia, and emotional collapse. Unless we flipped the script. Patrick sat across from us in the motel room we'd rented outside city limits. His hands trembled as he reviewed his own documents. I never thought I'd be here again, he muttered. Amanda leaned over. You're saving us, and probably others. He nodded, but quietly. She's powerful. Don't underestimate her charm in court. She plays the victim like it's a career. I know, I said, but this time we've got the receipts. We rehearsed his statement, page by page. Fake payroll deposits, backdated tax filings, Melissa's signed directives to divert funds, and his own email to a lawyer she intercepted and deleted. We cross-checked the timestamps with our digital records. Everything lined up. Clean. True. Ready. Later that night, I sat outside motel alone, watching the last orange trace of sunset vanish behind the hills. Amanda joined me. Are you scared? She asked. Not of her, I said. Of what comes after. She nodded slowly. I've never said thank you, she whispered, for raising me, even when I didn't deserve it. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Accountability and pain, the kind that could grow into strength. You don't owe me thanks, I said. You owe me honesty, from here on out. She nodded. We sat in silence for a long time, until Heather texted. Media alert. Melissa's PR team has leaked your sealed custody file. They're going nuclear. Brace yourself. Amanda paled. She's breaking every boundary now. No, I said, standing. She's breaking herself. I looked at the courthouse on my phone screen. I just have to help her finish the job. They mic'd us up in silence. The courtroom wasn't just packed, it was broadcast. Live stream. Local news vans. Bloggers. #wars. The bailiff had to tell people to put their phones down 3 separate times. Melissa sat across the aisle, dressed in soft beige, pearl earrings, no makeup, like some tragic matriarch in a Hallmark movie. Amanda sat next to me. She never looked at her mother once. The judge entered. Cameras rolled. And the hearing began. Melissa's lawyer went first, painting a portrait of a man unraveling, threatening, manipulating. They quoted texts I'd written out of context, cited emails I'd sent in desperation, claimed the document leak had triggered emotional distress for Amanda, who no longer felt safe. I watched the audience react, heads nodding, brows furrowing. Melissa dabbed her eyes. Fake tears. Real damage. Then it was my turn. My lawyer kept it short, because we had one ace left. Patrick. He walked to the stand. Hands steady. Voice calm. And he told the truth. Melissa's fake payroll. The studio collapse. The fabricated debt she dumped on him. The lies she built, notarized, and broadcast. We backed it up with hard files. Receipts. Dates. Emails. Then Amanda stood. The whole room shifted. She faced the judge. I lied for her, she said, because I thought I had to. I thought being loved meant protecting secrets. Her voice cracked. But now I know truth is the only way out. Melissa's mouth opened. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering rapidly. And then, Heather uploaded the final file. Right as Amanda stepped down, my phone buzzed. She gave me a tiny nod. I clicked a link and passed it to the court clerk. Permission to enter one final piece of evidence, Your Honor. It was a voice memo. Melissa, recorded 3 months ago. If Derek ever finds out, we pivot fast. Call him unstable. Amanda'll play along. He's too proud to fight back publicly. The judge's eyes widened. Melissa stood up. No, that's illegally. Sit down. The judge barked. The gavel hit wood. We're taking a recess. But it was too late. The media already had it. The clip was going viral. The lie was dying live. Melissa stared at me. And for the first time, she looked afraid. By the time the judge returned from recess, the courtroom was different. Quieter. No more fake sniffles. No more whispers of doubt. Just the weight of truth, finally having a seat. Melissa's lawyer asked for an adjournment. The judge denied it. Instead, he dismissed the restraining order, tossed the emotional harassment claim, and added something I didn't expect. Ms. Collins, he said, voice firm, this court finds your testimony to be inconsistent, your supporting evidence fabricated, and your actions malicious in nature. You are advised to cease all public statements involving Mr. Collins or his daughter. Failure to do so will result in sanctions. Melissa didn't speak. Couldn't. She just stood there, a statue cracked from within. I didn't smile. There was no satisfaction in watching someone collapse under the weight of their own lies. Only relief. That I finally put the weight down. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed. I didn't give a speech. Amanda did. She faced the cameras and said, "My name is Amanda Collins. For a long time, I believed what I was told to believe. I let someone else speak for me. But today, I'm speaking for myself. And I choose truth, even when it hurts." The crowd went still. Then applause. Not loud, but real. Later, Heather sent me one final update. All 3 news outlets verified. Your side's the lead story now. The evidence is solid. Public opinion flipped. She also added, "You did it." But I didn't feel like a man who won. I felt like a man who escaped. Amanda and I took one last drive. This time not to hide, but to leave everything behind. We didn't speak much. We didn't need to. When we reached the coast, I tossed the burner phone into the ocean. She tossed her old designer bag in after it. Then we sat on the sand. Free. Some truths come at a price. Some endings are just unburied beginnings. And some families aren't built by blood. They're built by choice. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.